Hi, my name is Kenneth Geers. I work for a company called Very Good Security. Today we're going to talk about cryptocurrency, specifically its strategic potential. Is cryptocurrency strong enough and powerful enough and reliable enough that it could even overtake the US dollar as the world's reserve currency? You've probably all seen a chart like this showing that Bitcoin has gone from almost zero value to over 60,000 per Bitcoin. In 2010, 2 pizzas were bought with 10,000 Bitcoins, meaning that those same pizzas today would cost over $500 million. So clearly Bitcoin, or cryptocurrency in general, has a lot of potential to make some people some money some of the time. But is it secure enough to be an investment? Right? So that's what we want to look at in this presentation. One of the ways to understand the true value of something is to see what it means to you during a time of crisis. So during World War II, the stories of England and France shipping gold overseas are well worth reading about. During an invasion, not only might your country take your gold or your money, but the invading army might as well. We can understand this dynamic even better if we look at the longer range of history in which things like shells or salt were traded for goods or services. These things had an intrinsic value because they provided a proof of work, that you had done something to earn something, such as finding or extracting these items from hard-to-reach places. So here's where gold comes into the picture. If you look at the whole periodic table of elements, very few elements approach the value of gold to humans. It's rare, strong, beautiful, not poisonous, not radioactive, and not corrosive. Thank goodness that wartime is an abnormal state of affairs for humans. Normally, we have a time of peace. After World War II, 44 Allied nations met in New Hampshire, United States, to create the Bretton Woods system, in which other currencies would be pegged to the dollar, and the dollar would be pegged to the price of gold. Thus, because the United States dollar had something tangible behind it, something real like gold, other countries believed in the US dollar, and they could use it as a reserve currency to support their own currencies, both in peacetime and potentially during times of crisis. Therefore, if cryptocurrency wants to overtake the US dollar, it needs to start taking on the characteristics of money. So what is money? Real money can be used in exchange for goods, services, and very importantly, taxes. Our oldest examples of paper money come from China 1,000 years ago, and metal coins from China 3,000 years ago. Money is a human construct based on political, economic, and social consensus. Governments have tended to standardize money based on size, shape, and weight so that it can be used for legal tender, which means that merchants have to accept it. Good money tends to be scarce, durable, portable, and stable. And if cryptocurrency hopes to replace traditional money, it will have to meet or exceed these same characteristics. Now let's get back to geopolitics, which is intimately tied, of course, to economics. Investing in the US dollar was like investing in the United States. It was sort of considered safe because the United States had the world's largest gold reserves. Since the US dollar was backed by gold, we developed a monetary policy that was effective. The result was a managed supply of money that had low inflation, low devaluation, high liquidity, high access, and high trust. And the connection of economy to power is clear. Other nations began to criticize the United States for having an exorbitant privilege in which they were allowed to print money at will. And this allowed the United States to build the world's largest military, among other things. But even for the United States, nothing lasts forever. Economic commitments from the New Deal social programs to the Vietnam War overstretched United States politics and economics. In 1971, the United States was forced to end the gold standard, which meant that the US dollar floated. It was no longer tied to gold, and you could no longer exchange your US dollars for gold. So if the US dollar is no longer backed by gold, surely this gives cryptocurrency an opportunity to be more valuable and to become the reserve currency of the world. In the next 3 slides, we're going to talk about the 3 essential elements of money. The first is medium of exchange. It's an intermediary token that represents a certain value. It can be traded for goods or services. The reason this is so important is because it takes us beyond barter, right? It avoids what's called the inconvenience of a coincidence of wants. If you have apples and I have oranges, we can trade them to a certain point, and eventually we're going to want to buy other things. So we need an intermediary token to substitute for one particular item that can become essentially any item. Societal adoption is key. Functionality, security, and usability all play a role in determining whether society will eventually adopt something it can use as a medium of exchange. Where I have been living in Mozambique for the past couple of years, in East Africa, there's a great story in which small towns, people started trading cell phone minutes as currency. And this idea, which was spontaneous and organic originally, grew into a major multinational company called M-Pesa. The second characteristic of money we should talk about is unit of account. This is a stable measure of cost, prices, performance, and profits. Multiple values of the same unit can be used to judge the value of goods, services, assets, and liabilities. Double entry bookkeeping based on reliable units of account became the heart of capitalism and was so powerful that it helped Europe to emerge from the Dark Ages. One key aspect of this characteristic of money is the use of a ledger. It's a record of economic activity and financial relationships, and it's older than even writing. The first writing was, in fact, accounting before we had letters for writing stories. A good ledger is what we think of for cryptography: immutable, time-stamped. It has ownership and accuracy that can be provable. And modern payment systems have this aspect to it. When you go buy your morning coffee, right, it's essentially a ledger. You're not trading money, but your ledger falls and the coffee store rises. So cryptocurrency ledgers are the same dynamic. Bitcoin transactions, Ethereum balances, they essentially are online ledgers of economic activity. The third and final characteristic of good money is store of value. This means that it has saved purchasing power over time, stable demand, and it's a durable asset. This is what makes gold and silver, in part, so valuable. One of the important aspects of the durability is it counters the risk of inflation. And U.S. monetary policy is constantly trying to fight the risk and the fear and threat of inflation. And the U.S. has been relatively successful in this area, given that other countries, including Cambodia, Ecuador, Lebanon, Somalia, Zimbabwe, and more, have officially adopted the U.S. dollar over time, which means that U.S. monetary policy has been largely effective at creating this kind of trust over time. It is this third and final aspect that may be the most difficult for cryptocurrency to overcome. The lack of central management will lead to a certain level of volatility and a lack of stability that will make cryptocurrency hard to put your trust in. And if you followed the news over the past few weeks in El Salvador, where they're investing in Bitcoin in a big way at the national level, this has caused people concern, right? The volatility and lack of stability in terms of cryptocurrency prices and trust. Before we dive more deeply into cryptocurrency, let's look at why gold is an attractive alternative to the dollar that is another option. In Russia, just last year, their quantities of gold as a reserve currency grew higher than the dollar, 23% to 22% for the first time. Putin is using gold to try and de-dollarize the Russian economy and to reduce its susceptibility to U.S. sanctions. But as we will soon see in this presentation, it is the very independence and power to the individual that cryptocurrency offers that authoritarian governments are certainly to be wary of. So in Russia, they have done a lot to stifle cryptocurrency mining and ownership, even making it illegal for those in government to own cryptocurrency. And if the government creates a digital ruble, there's a fear that it would take them back to the times of super centralized government as in the USSR. However, gold, despite its being a great investment, is really hard to move and hard to transfer. And often when people talk about buying and selling gold, in fact, they're not really buying and selling gold, they're just altering ledgers, similar to cryptocurrency. One of the things that cryptocurrency is trying to solve is moving value quickly and securely across the world via the internet. You cannot do that with gold or silver. Cryptocurrency like Bitcoin falls in a long line of programmable transactions, similar to Ethernet communications, TCP/IP, HTTP, SSL, TLS, etc. One of the problems that Bitcoin claimed to solve was peer-to-peer transactions with no central authority. So yeah, you can move ones and zeros across the internet quickly, but what Bitcoin did was to raise the level of trust between parties. Other cryptocurrencies in the past had trouble achieving this, such as ending the problem of double spending or spending the same amount twice, two different places or for two different items. This is what Bitcoin revolutionized. In 2008, Satoshi Nakamoto published a paper called Bitcoin, a P2P electronic cash system that seemed to achieve a consensus protocol based on good cryptography, proof of work, a native currency, and its own reliable network of nodes. Bitcoin stood on the shoulders of giants: asymmetric cryptography, hash functions for integrity and tamper resistance, digital signatures for consent, append-only timestamp blocks, and distributed consensus algorithms. These technologies can be used to secure the entire internet. Satoshi claimed that the verifiable and immutable transactions of Bitcoin could even solve age-old philosophical conundrums like the Byzantine general's problem. In other words, you've got two army units that need to communicate secretly in order to achieve a strategic objective. Via the technology that Bitcoin pioneered, this was possible, or so is the claim. And you do not have to think of Bitcoin even as necessarily money per se. It can be any kind of asset or risk that we agree upon. It may seem like a challenge for cryptocurrency to achieve the same level of trust and societal adoption as we've seen with traditional currency and even credit card transactions over the past generation. But in fact, we're moving quickly in that direction. Let's talk for a second about China, where today 80% of payments are digital, not with traditional currency. And the Chinese government, more so than in Russia, is investing in cryptocurrency. In 2022, for the Beijing Winter Olympics, there will be a digital yuan test. Some analysts speculate that if other nations begin to use Chinese cryptocurrency, then that could pose a threat to the US dollar as the world's reserve currency. But even Bitcoin does not do everything by itself. How do we know the number of coins that are available? And how do we know who owns them? This is possible via blockchain technology. The blockchain keeps digital assets stored in a decentralized online ledger with strong cryptography. It is an online auditable database that is tamper-resistant and is based on a communication protocol consensus with block validation. Its input and output is based on cryptography that is verifiable and provable to all parties participating in the blockchain. You can even mine cryptocurrency like gold by verifying transactions and adding blocks to the blockchain. And here begin political challenges that may pose a problem to the widespread adoption of cryptocurrency across the world and could be a risk to your investment in cryptocurrency. On a small scale, there is cryptojacking, on a smaller scale, we have cryptojacking, in which criminals would seize control of your computer to use your processing power and your energy to earn money. And at the level of nation-state abuse, we have the case of North Korea, which uses cryptocurrency currently to skirt international sanctions imposed for human rights abuses. The potential benefits of cryptocurrency run from the individual to the national to the international level. They are truly revolutionary. For individual owners of cryptocurrency, there's ownership, confidentiality of transactions, lower cost, peer-to-peer networking, transnational purchases, potential return on investment, finding of credit, and new assets. Societies, this is financial inclusion, dissemination of power, and this is exactly what El Salvador is currently looking at. I spend a lot of time in Estonia, and you may know that they use blockchain and other technologies even to chip away at corruption, at promoting e-government, democracy, the rule of law, via digital IDs, timestamps, and other things that can promote transparency and responsibility and rule of law within nation states. And this is exactly why some authoritarian governments may not like blockchain and cryptocurrency technologies. The political potential of cryptocurrency is apparent. But we'll know when governments start to accept taxes, for example, in cryptocurrency, that things are changing. Now, this may be the most important slide in the presentation because cryptocurrency investment has a lot of risks. Its quick evolution and its novelty mean that there's a large learning curve. Cryptography and mathematics have never been easy to the vast majority of humans. So nation-states are pretty much behind the curve. Regulation, insurance, standards, custodianship, infrastructure are all behind where we would like them to be. Supply chain attacks, hacked exchanges, the trouble with software updates, all of these indicate that this technology is still young and growing quickly. At the political level, there are fears of electricity consumption and carbon footprint. The percentage of cryptocurrency that is owned by large holders or potentially unethical holders is unknown, and therefore there's a fear of market manipulation in an unethical way. And if you think about it, there is a presumption of internet access, which means that in many countries where internet access is not guaranteed, well, guess what? Neither is access to your cryptocurrency wallet. And I'm sure you've all seen in the news that some cryptocurrency owners have lost hardware or passwords that mean they cannot access hundreds of millions of dollars in cryptocurrency. So the cybersecurity problem is a cryptocurrency problem, from hacking to malware and phishing. And traditional crime is a cryptocurrency problem, from fraud to extortion and theft. Over time, cryptocurrency supporters hope that as legitimate use rises, crime will fall. One of the efforts underway is to hold exchanges accountable for their operations, and one of the means to do this is KYC, or Know Your Client. Obviously, we would all be a lot better off if criminals and terrorists did not have easy access to millions of dollars. In terms of cryptocurrency security, the most important aspect is to guard your private keys. Your keys are your digital identity in the cryptocurrency market. So at all costs, protect your private keys from hackers who could commit cryptocurrency fraud in your name. A cold cybersecurity wallet is good because it has no internet connection. If you have a paper wallet, you should laminate it so that it cannot be destroyed by water damage. Many cryptocurrency owners diversify so that they do not put all of their eggs in one basket. So as a final verdict for this presentation, despite the incredible potential of cryptocurrency and the fact that it will be and already is a catalyst for change, it cannot replace the US dollar as a reserve currency in the near term. But over the horizon, anything is possible. There are many challenges, from performance and speed and security to simple interoperability with legacy payment systems. Public trust and public adoption may be coming over time. It took 15 to 20 years before the laws and regulations caught up with credit cards. You will be wise to watch incumbent financial firms and central banks to see what they do and say on this issue over time. Let me say as a disclaimer, I'm not a financial expert, but an information security researcher. That said, I have found some good advice to include consistency, emotional control, and tax planning as 3 important elements of investment. Short term, timing the market is considered to be mostly luck. Assume that cryptocurrency is a high-risk investment that should only consist of a small portion of your investment portfolio. Even if Bitcoin drops to 0 value, Elon Musk will be okay, but most of us can't afford that margin for error. Thank you very much.